And in order for society to get on board with me and to help me, we have to understand what's going on behind these walls. What's going on? Why don't the offenders, the inmates, the convicts, why don't they want to change? Why don't they want to get on board? Is there something going on that is stopping that? They've created a predatory market that makes our families pay for everything that's going on. I want to work on real solutions to these problems. How can we come together as a community and say, let's fix this? Hello, everybody, and welcome to Empire's 5th podcast. My name is Steve Ogden, and I am your host. Today's topic is a juicy, forbidden, taboo topic that I'm really not supposed to talk about. Today's topic is on prison politics. So I'm going to give you a warning. This is a highly sensitive topic and has the potential to offend some individuals. I do not share the following belief system in any way, shape, or form. This podcast is strictly meant to educate and inform the public about prison culture and the internal politics so that we may reform the system. That's what this is about, right? We want to reform, we want to change. And in order for society to get on board with me and to help me, we have to understand what's going on behind these walls. What's going on? Why don't the offenders, the inmates, the convicts, why don't they want to change? Why don't they want to get on board? Is there something going on that is stopping that? And I say, yes, there is. There's prison politics. What are politics? How'd they get started? Prison politics started when they first started incarcerating people. What had happened is it created a culture within a culture. In society, you have governors, you have the president, you have sheriffs, you have senators, congressmen, deputy sheriffs. It's a little different in here. We have shot callers, we have gang leaders, we have enforcers, you name it, we have it in here. And it's similar to society, but it's a whole different animal. How is this system ruled? How does it work? Well, it's ruled with an iron fist. It is ruled with violence. The consequences for breaking the convict code are violence. It's an assault. It's a beatdown. It's a jumping. You know, there's instances where if somebody breaks a rule, a convict code rule or something like that, they can get a workout program. So they have to do 1,500 burpees. They'll be doing burpees all day long, push-ups, squat thrusts. You know, it becomes a bad day for somebody. You know, and what are some of these rules? So rules vary. Like to where you sit in the chow hall, who you live with in a cell, who you're allowed to be friends with. Yeah, who you can be friends with. How does that work? You know, again, this is an uncomfortable topic, but it works on race. It works on gang. It works on a number of factors like that. So say me as being a white guy has a best friend that is an African-American. Technically, we're not really allowed to be friends in here because of the racial disparity, the way things have grown in here and turned. And let me give you a little history on that. Back in the 70s, 60s, San Quentin prison in California, there were a lot of issues and between the different races. Those race wars started turning into killings. There would be large race riots on the yard to get back at another race. The black guys would kill the white guy, the Hispanics would kill the black guy. You know, it went around in a circle. Well, that formed into a rule about who could live with who, where we can sit in the chow hall, who gets jobs, who gets to go to education. It's based on so much stuff, and it becomes crazy in here. Who gets to pick those jobs? Who gets to pick what cell you live in? What class you go to? That goes, like who's the shot caller? Who's running stuff? For what different group? Because there's so many different groups. You have different gangs, you have different races, you have people from different states, you have different people from different countries, and each group has what's called a shot caller, somebody running the show. And who's running the show, they get first pick everything. If you're going to say, pick me to be your leader, you're going to want to make sure you got jobs. You're going to want to make sure you got a good cell, you got a good place to sit in the chow hall. How does someone like that get picked? How does the shot caller get picked? Well, it's something similar to you see on TV, where you see the Donald Trump ads or the Joe Biden ads or the senator ads. Don't vote for this guy because of this. Don't vote for that guy because of this. Well, inmates talk to one another, and they're not going to want a shot caller that is strung out on drugs. The LGBTQ community, or the sex offender community, they're very it's taboo in here, and it's looked down upon as weak. Sex offenders in here have no say-so on anything, and they get a lot of their stuff taken, stolen, extorted. They get a really bad time. So if you are going to become a shot caller, you can't be friends with any of those guys. You can't be dibbling dabbling in the LGBT community. You can't have friends that are gay. You can't be having them come over to your cell, because it casts a shadow upon you. And they won't vote for you. They'll say, oh, don't vote for Steve because he's gay, or don't vote for Steve because he hangs out with another race. Things like that. And or don't vote for Steve because he's a drug addict to the point where he can't get anything done for us. Don't vote for Steve because he's not violent. Again, violence rules everything. If somebody's not violent, it doesn't matter. They're not getting to the top. You have to be the most violent and intelligent person to make it to the top in here. And that sucks, man. And but that's what it is. Let's talk about Christianity and spirituality. Say I want to become a Christian, or I want to get spiritual, I want to start doing yoga or doing things like that. That stuff is frowned upon in here. They call it weak, because what are the rules of Christianity? Jesus' only commandment that he gave us was love. Love your neighbor, love everybody around you, love, love, love. Well, in here it's hate, hate, hate. Violence, beat up. It's the complete opposite of what Jesus taught. It's the complete opposite of what yogis teach. It's even the Muslim religion is if you're becoming religious in here, people, they frown upon it, and they say that people hide behind it. So if you don't want to be violent, you become a Christian. You don't want to be violent, you become a Buddhist. And that creates it sucks. I'm a Christian myself, and I don't care what anybody has to say about it. I believe in God, and he's helped me change my life. But that's what this environment is in here. Drug use, drug distribution. How does that work in here? How does that happen? We talked last week about drug and alcohol abuse behind the walls, but we didn't talk about the politics behind it. So the politics behind that are, if you're not somebody in here, you don't get to sell them. You can use them. You can spend all your family's money all day long on them, but you don't get to sell them. Only the guys that are in charge, the guys that are the most violent, the most dangerous, they're the ones that get it distributed, because they're the ones making money. And if they're not the ones selling it, their best friends are. Their fellow gang members are, things like that. So people start warring over it. Who gets to, say a guy in here loses a family member. They get an inheritance of $100,000. Well, these guys team up around them, and they start selling them drugs. And that, every clique is trying to do it. The different races, the different gangs, everybody wants to run that guy. They want to get his money. So violence takes place. You'll start having gang fights. You'll start having racial fights. You'll start having all kinds of different fights over who gets to be in charge of that. So it's real political. And again, that's why people are always jockeying to get that shot caller position, because that's who gets to make the money. That's who gets to be in charge. Let's talk about the chow hall a little bit, and jobs. So the chow hall is where we eat. What happens in there? Well, you don't get to go sit wherever you want to sit in there. Say my best friend is a Hispanic guy, but I'm a white guy, or I'm a Hispanic guy and I want to go sit with my best friend that's a black guy. You don't get to sit there. The chow hall is where a lot of violence takes place. If there's going to be a riot, it could start in the chow hall. There's no gun towers, there's no things like that. In certain states, they have catwalks. It might not take place there. Where I am, that's where a lot of stuff happens. And so you have to sit with your own people. And There's a white section, there's a Hispanic section, there's a black section, there's a native section. It's like the 1950s and 60s, you know? When you come to the front gate, but we're going to talk more about the racial stuff next week. That's what next week's topic is on white supremacy. But the chow hall, if you go decide you want to go sit with a friend of yours on a different side of the chow hall, you're in trouble. You might have to go do burpees outside. Hey, there might be a fight right there in the chow hall if that side doesn't want you sitting there, you know? And what does that leave? You know, sometimes I'll see guys standing up and eating when I first get to a facility. They don't even have a place to sit. What that is a lot of times they're sex offenders or they're the LGBTQ community. They're the outcasts, you know, and it's a sad thing. But jobs, again, how does someone get a job? You'd be curious about that. You'd think you just go sign up, the police give you a job. That's it, right? Well, that's wrong. A job could cost you money. It could cost you drugs. It could cost you any number of things. And what I mean by that is the shot callers control that stuff. So the police aren't going to admit that. They're not going to say, oh, yeah, my employee, one of my state employees, he allows gang members to run the job here. Well, what happens is you want that job, you go talk to the shot caller, hey, I want to work in the kitchen. He says, okay, I'll get you in there. Whoever's the parapro or works the clerk for the officer, he chooses who works. He puts you on the list, you get the job, you know. That could happen for education. That could happen for any number of different things. You want to get into a class, you sign up. If you're broke, you don't got any friends, you're not getting in that class, not for a year, not for 2 years. You know, you have to know somebody, you know, and then you have to grease the wheels, and that's just how it is, you know. Cell moves. I can't just sell with anybody. We talked about the chow hall a little bit. We talked about other things. Like if I want to live with a friend, he has to be my own race, and he has to be whatever gang I'm affiliated with. And that's just a cold hard fact. There's nothing you can do about that. You could be the most non-racial, non-affiliated, independent, I'm going to do my own thing when you get here. But it doesn't work like that, you know. You become an outcast, you become assaulted, you get beat up, you get thrown to the predators, you become prey. And if you don't want to be involved with becoming prey, if you don't want to be that guy, you have to get with the program. So how do you find out about this stuff? How do you learn about this stuff when you get to prison? How do you get indoctrinated? Well, when you get here, the first thing you hear is your people are over there. Go talk to your people. So me being Caucasian, I have to go talk to the white guys. Then they start teaching me. You know, some will start schooling me is what it's called. Let me tell you about this. Let me tell you how this works. Let me tell you how that works. This is where you sit in the chow hall. This is who you live with. This is where you work. You know, everything I'm teaching you about, somebody was teaching me. It was taught a lot different. It was taught with a different tone, with different kind of slang. But I was schooled, and I was told if you don't like it, then you can either go to protective custody or you can get beat up until you get with the program. That's how it is. If you want to have any kind of anything within the system, you gotta listen to your teacher. And as time goes on, you go from a fish to, you know, someone that can actually partake in the everyday life of prison. And it's just it's a sad thing, man. And I was taught when I came in from some older guys, and I learned two different ways actually. You know, I went to federal prison about 2006, 2007, and it was a completely different environment there. The rules were similar, but instead of getting beat up like you do in Colorado for breaking a rule, you get murdered there. They will kill you. There's no fighting. There's only stabbing, you know. And it's a dangerous world, man. Let's talk a little bit more about East Coast, West Coast, different states. So politics differ from one side of the country to the other. On the West Coast politics, they're extremely racial. On the East Coast politics, it's all about money. Who's getting money? Who's making the most money? They don't care if you're white, black, Hispanic, you know. In California, in the west side of the United States, they care. It's extremely racially divided. Everything is based off of race. And the states follow suit. So if you are in Utah, you're going to be following California West Coast politics. If you are in New Jersey, you're East Coast, and things are they differ. They differ from the violence is still the same. Everything is ruled with an iron fist, but they're a little bit more lax towards the East Coast. But that's the gist of it. There's a lot more to talk about. This is such a juicy topic, and I would love to cover a lot more. I really don't have the time today. These visits are pretty short. So if you guys have any questions, my group page should be getting up and running here soon. I'm having a lot of trouble getting that started. But once it gets started, you guys can ask your questions, and I would be more than happy to answer them. Next week's podcast is going to be strictly on white supremacy behind the walls, the indoctrination of the youth that come in here, and how these guys go from not understanding or believing in racism to becoming bald with swastikas on their chest. So how does that happen? How does that take place? Well, we're going to talk more about that next week. Thanks for being here, and thanks for participating, and you guys have a good day.